The kiosk is small, 12 feet of counter, 6 stools, a brewing rig I assembled myself from parts that Thresh Junction's supply manifest still lists as miscellaneous thermal equipment. There is room for 2 customers to stand without crowding each other, which is more than enough, because most of the people moving through Concourse 4 are in transit, and most of them are in a hurry. They stop for coffee and they leave. That has been the arrangement for 11 years, and it has suited me. Pip lives behind the counter, in a ceramic dish I bought at a market on Hessen Station before I came here. The dish is pale blue and slightly too large for him, which he has never seemed to mind. He is 4 years old, copper-furred, and built along lines that suggest he was assembled from whatever was left over after every other hamster was already finished. He is not fat in any way that concerns the vet. He is simply thorough. He spends most of his day in the dish, and when he is not in the dish, he is on the shelf beside the brewing rig, and when he is not on the shelf, he is somewhere on the counter, looking at something I cannot see. He does not appear to find any of this unsatisfying. The Vethali Classification Bureau came on a Tuesday. I say that as though I knew they were Vethali before they arrived. I did not. What I knew was that 3 figures in gray coats had appeared at the far end of Concourse 4, with a scanning rig mounted on a wheeled frame, and that they were stopping at every stall and kiosk in order, and that each stop took approximately 4 minutes. I counted. I had time. The morning rush was finished and the midday foot traffic had not yet started, and Pip was in his dish, and the brewing rig was ticking down a second pot, and I had nothing pressing to do except watch them come. The inspector reached my kiosk at 11:43. He was taller than a standard human doorframe by about half a head, and built in the way that Vethali officials tend to be built, angular at the shoulders, narrow at the base, carrying the scanner rig's control module in one hand, with an ease that suggested it was not as light as it looked. His name badge read, RUC, D, Auditing Division, Biological Presence Classification. His 2 technicians flanked the rig, and did not introduce themselves. Thresh Junction Compliance Audit, RUC said. He had a voice like something read off a form. Concourse 4, Registered Businesses. You are the operator of this kiosk? I said I was. Any biological presences on the premises not already registered under your operator license? I said there was one. He looked at Pip. Pip was in his dish. He was facing the counter, which meant he was facing RUC, and he had his forepaws on the edge of the dish, and he was looking at RUC with the specific quality of attention he brings to things that have entered his line of sight and not yet left it. He was not concerned. He has never been concerned. He is, as best I can determine, constitutionally incapable of concern. RUC looked at Pip for a moment. Then he turned back to his scanner rig and entered something. Earth rodent, he said. Companion grade. I am logging this as Livestock Classification 4, pending formal review. You will receive a confiscation notice within. He is not livestock, I said. RUC did not look up from the rig. Earth companion rodents are logged under Livestock Classification 4 by Vethali Bureau Standard. If you wish to contest the designation, you may file a reclassification request through the Bureau's Thresh Junction Intake Office. Processing takes. He is a pet, I said. He has a name. He has a vet who has seen him twice a year for 4 years and who has very specific opinions about his diet. He is not livestock. RUC looked at me. Then he looked at Pip. Pip had not moved. He was still looking at RUC with that flat, open, unblinking attention. The classification stands, RUC said. I will begin confiscation proceedings. He reached for the confiscation module on the side of the scanner rig. He entered a code. The rig processed for approximately 3 seconds. Then it stopped. Then it generated a sound I had not heard it make at any of the previous 17 kiosks, a short flat tone, and RUC's expression did not change, but something around his eyes did. He entered the code again. The rig processed. The same tone. He looked at Pip. Pip looked at him. One of the technicians leaned around the rig to read the screen. She said something to RUC in Vethali that I did not catch. RUC said something back. Then he took out a secondary device, a smaller handheld unit, and ran it in Pip's direction. The unit gave a readout. Ruck read the readout. He was quiet for a moment. "I need to contact the Bureau," he said, to no one in particular, and he stepped back from the counter and made a call. I made a coffee. The second technician, the one who had not leaned around the rig, was looking at Pip. Pip had shifted in his dish and was now facing sideways, which meant he was looking at something along the far wall. He was doing this with full commitment. Whatever was on the far wall had his complete attention. The first technician arrived 15 minutes later. She was introduced to me as a classification specialist, which is a different thing from an auditor in ways that Ruck did not explain. She brought her own scanning equipment. She ran it. She read the output. She conferred with Ruck. She filed something on her tablet. The tablet flagged the filing. She filed it again. The tablet flagged it again. She looked at Pip for a long time. Pip had moved back to the center of the dish and was grooming his left ear. He was doing this slowly and with great attention to thoroughness, and he did not look up. The specialist said something to Ruck that I think was the Vethali word for unprecedented, though I am not certain. My Vethali is functional rather than fluent. The senior auditor arrived at 1:30. She was introduced to me as senior auditor, biological hazard classification, Thresh Junction region, and she had 2 additional technicians with her who set up a second scanning rig on a separate wheeled frame. They spent 20 minutes running scans. They ran them twice. Then they conferred for a further 10 minutes in low voices near the far end of the rig frame. Then the senior auditor came to the counter. "Your animal," she said. "His name is Pip," I said. She looked at Pip. Pip was in his dish. He had eaten something small and was now cleaning his whiskers, which he does after he eats, in a precise order that proceeds from front to back and takes approximately 45 seconds. He was at the midpoint. "The Bureau has never generated this flag before," she said. "I expect not," I said. "The classification system has 412 designations for biological presences encountered in transit jurisdictions. Your animal does not resolve to any of them." "He is a hamster," I said. She looked at me. She looked at Pip. Pip had finished cleaning his whiskers and was now simply sitting, which is something he does between activities, with his forepaws on the dish edge and his eyes open and his expression, if a hamster can be said to have an expression, of a creature that has made peace with the fact that the world contains more things than it can be bothered to investigate. "We are suspending Concourse 4 operations pending taxonomic review," the senior auditor said. "Your kiosk may remain open. Your animal will not be confiscated pending classification resolution. A notice will be filed with Thresh Junction Administration." "That seems fine," I said. They packed their rigs. Ruck and his 2 technicians left first. The specialist left second. The senior auditor paused at the edge of the concourse and looked back, once, at Pip. Pip did not look back. He was facing the shelf with the brewing rig, and either he had found something on the shelf worth looking at, or he had simply decided that was the direction he wanted to face. With Pip, the 2 are sometimes the same thing. The official record posted 3 weeks and 2 days later. I received a copy by station mail. Incident classification. Instrument ambiguity. Concourse 4. Thresh Junction. Biological presence audit case 7 Veth 3304J. Resolution. Suspended pending interagency review. Biological presence on file. 1 earth rodent. Species Chrysetus auratus. Common designation hamster. Classification tier. Blank. There was a second page. It contained a note in smaller text, which said that the Bureau had opened an internal working group to examine the classification criteria that had produced the instrument ambiguity flag, and that the working group's findings would be submitted to the Bureau's Designation Standards Committee within 18 months, and that Thresh Junction Concourse 4 had been moved to a suspended audit status until the working group concluded. I filed the notice with my other station paperwork and went back to work. Pip was in his dish. He had been in his dish for most of the afternoon, except for a brief interval on the shelf, and a shorter interval on the counter beside the mug rack. He was copper-furred and fat, and completely without opinion on the matter of the Vethali Classification Bureau, its 412 designations, or the working group that was, at that moment, meeting for the first time to discuss him. He yawned. Wide, slow, thorough. The Vethali Bureau has not returned to Concourse 4.